So last year I put together a video on why I love the Eccentric kPulley2 to the point where we had actually purchased 8 units for our gym, Achieve Fitness. That video covered a lot of higher level details like why we believe in flywheel training in the first place, along with our top 3 real world use cases for the kPulley2, which were for sports performance, training beginners, and large group training. So if you want to learn more about the whys behind the kPulley2 and flywheel training in general, I definitely check out that video first. Now in this video, I want to get much more granular. We've been using the kPulley now for over 2 years, and I want to break down exactly how to actually use it, how I like to program it in during my workouts, and why it's an invaluable tool in my training regimen. Now in my last video, someone commented that it would have been nice to see how the machine actually works instead of all the talking and analogies, so let's get right into it. This is the kPulley2. The setup is super simple. You get the kPulley beam, you get the base, and depending on which package you get, an allotment of different size flywheels and attachments. Now all I had to do to set up the kPulley was to find a stud and drill into the pre-cut holes to secure the beam to my wall, and then use the provided tools to secure the base to the beam. Attaching and detaching various attachments is super simple, as you just need to gently pull on the conveniently marked red pull tag, and you can switch out various attachments with ease. To attach the flywheel to the base, you just line up the grooves, push the plate all the way back, secure the end cap, and you're ready to go. Now, how do you actually go about using the kPulley? Now remember, this isn't a traditional machine. You're not using a weight stack for resistance, you're using the inertia of a flywheel, and that requires a slightly different technique to get the exercise going. All you need to do is get to the end range of whatever exercise you're doing, and step away from the machine until you feel the end point. So let's take a row for example. A row starts here and ends here. So start off close to the kPulley, get to the end range of the row, and take small steps back until you reach the end point and feel some resistance. From there, instead of yanking as hard as you can right off the bat, you're going to get in a couple of pre-reps. When you gently pull on the handle for your first pre-rep, the flywheel will give you some feedback. If you're too close to the machine, there will be a lot of slack that gets built up. And if you're too far away from the machine, your range of motion would be cut short, so you'll have to make micro adjustments with your feet to get to the right spot. I mentioned this in my last video, but I love the fact that the kPulley forces the lifter to be more mindful of their setup. It makes the exercise much more of a reactive drill that challenges coordination and stability rather than just being about brute force. After about 2 to 3 pre-reps, you should be in the right position, and at that point you can start your first official rep. Now be warned, the first time you actually perform an exercise on the kPulley, you will probably be knocked off balance and you'll be forced to adjust your stance even further. And that's because however much force you're putting into the flywheel, it's going to give all that force right back during the eccentric portion of the movement. Again, this is what I love about flywheel training. You have to be on your game and present during each rep. Not only do you have to be mindful when you set up, but you also have to pay attention to your balance and weight distribution throughout the entire set, otherwise you'll be knocked off balance. Now the other enormous benefit of the kPulley is the fact that you can put as much force into the flywheel as you want, which opens up so many possibilities in terms of exercise selection. One of my frustrations with traditional cable machines is that if I were to try to do anything overly athletic or forceful, the weight stack would jump up, I'd lose tension on the cable, and then all of a sudden the weights would come crashing back down. It's a really jerky, disconnected feeling, and it meant that I had to purposely place a limit on my force application and also be limited in my exercise selection because I was restricted by the constraints of the cable machine. So that gets into how I primarily use the kPulley2. If you fully understand the mechanics and benefits behind flywheel training, the kPulley morphs from being a glorified cable machine to being a training tool that is irreplaceable because there's nothing else quite like it. No other machine can produce quite the same effect that a flywheel can. Like I mentioned before, one of the primary benefits I see with the kPulley is the fact that the weight is actually the inertia of a flywheel. Since basically an infinite amount of force can be applied to the flywheel, it makes sense to take advantage of that fact by incorporating movements that you can apply massive amounts of force to. So I love taking an ordinary exercise like a chest press and adding some rotation to it, or taking a basic diagonal lift and adding a squat to it, or taking a row and adding a hinge to it, and basically letting my body produce significantly more force than it ever could using cables and bands. Instead of being limited to a handful of moves performed in a slow, robotic way, I'm now only limited by my creativity And I believe that the carryover to athletics and overall force production is tremendous. Not only that, unlike traditional weights like dumbbells or barbells, flywheel training is extremely safe even when producing high amounts of force. There's inherent risk when moving traditional weights as fast as possible since your body and joints have to take on the brunt of the eccentric stress, whereas with the kPulley, the flywheel is actually seamlessly absorbing all of that energy without any harsh impact to your body. Speaking of eccentric, the other main benefit is the fact that you're able to highlight the eccentric component of any movement. Using traditional weights, the only way to accentuate the eccentric portion of a lift is to just intentionally slow the movement down by resisting against gravity. That means you're in total control the whole time, and you can probably stop the movement at any point. With the flywheel, however, you're truly in a position where the eccentric portion of the movement is overloaded, since you're no longer in full control of the load, but rather just yielding to its force. The end result is an intense feeling you'll probably never feel with any other exercise in the gym. You'll make that sort of sound when people get the wind knocked out of them, and you can feel so much total body stability and engagement happening, it's ridiculous. Now, I still do plenty of lifting with dumbbells and barbells and kettlebells and cable machines, but I also believe in using the right tool for the job, and I haven't found something even remotely comparable to the amount of force I can produce in multiple planes of motion, along with the eccentric accentuation benefit from the flywheel. For those of you who play a sport, you will know immediately and instinctively that this machine will have carryover to your athletic endeavors. Now, as far as programming goes, here's some principles I use to maximize the force production and eccentric emphasis benefits that the kPulley has to offer. Number one is that I rarely prescribe very rigid repetition recommendations like 3 sets of 8. My primary focus for myself and my lifters is to focus on the quality of the set. I love the fact that with the flywheel, you're not making weight comparisons each week like you would with traditional weights. So the emphasis is all about quality and speed. And it's really simple, just put force into the flywheel during the concentric portion of the movement, resist the eccentric force, and just stop when form starts to deteriorate or the set noticeably slows down. Number 2, I like to put more explosive work at the beginning of my workout to prime my nervous system. I keep the reps on the lower range, like around 1 to 5 reps or so as to not fatigue my muscles, but rather excite my nervous system and get everything firing on all cylinders. And lastly, number 3, I love to use the kPulley for injury prevention and muscle building work using a higher rep range, and I do so at the end of my workout to finish the workout on a little bit of a pump as an icing on the cake. So I hope this video clarified some of the questions that may have come up from my previous video. I really did my best to break down exactly how to use the kPulley and how it plays a pivotal role in my strength training regimen. If you're interested in the kPulley, head over to Excentric.com/product/kPulley, and there you'll see 2 options, the kPulley2 and the kPulley Go. The kPulley2 is what we use to outfit our gym because we knew that we needed something that could take a lot of use and wear and tear. But if you have a home gym or operate out of a smaller fitness facility or clinic, then the kPulley Go might be a more economical option for you. I'd highly recommend checking them out, and I'll see you in the next video.